Hi, my name is Josue, and today I'm going to be addressing questions about chapter 15. So I'm going to be reading the question and then I'm going to be attempting to answer them. So the first question that I'm going to be answering is going to be to explain how multidimensional family therapy works in my own words. So, multidimensional family therapy is actually one of the ones that I really like because it takes into consideration the complexity of community and its influence on us. So community and systems. And what I mean by this is that I believe that certain therapies kind of just focus on the family system to address issues of behavior in adolescence, as well as just issues with substance abuse. But multidimensional family therapy really takes into consideration the complexity of community. So it not only looks at the family system, but it also looks at the community at large, such as friends at school, possibly extended family members, or even people in their life who have become like family members. And it takes all of this into consideration when trying to address various types of behavioral issues with adolescents. So that's essentially how it works. And then the second question I'm going to be addressing is to discuss how solution focused brief therapy goes counter to that of espoused by the 12 steps. So we all know 12 steps because it's usually used in AA to help alcoholics be able to get through their addiction. It's kind of based off of these 12-step rules that help an individual go into exploring their addiction and why they have it and what are the roots of it. It's for a lot of people, it is very spiritual. It is very introspective. So for some individuals, that 12-step program might not be what they're drawn to because of this kind of nature. But solution focused brief therapy is one that I actually really enjoy or I appreciate because it focuses on the solution, right? It's kind of in the word solution focused brief therapy. So it's brief, that's one characteristic, and it's also focused on solution. It is very future oriented, meaning that although it is accepting that there might be, reasons because of past history that the individual might be engaging in substance abuse. More than anything, it's really gearing itself to finding a solution. What can we do moving forward? Yes, we can accept that maybe you've been through certain traumas or maybe you've gone through certain situations that have gotten you here, but what are the steps necessary that can get you to recovery, that can get you to having a healthy relationship with whether it's alcohol or not having a relationship at all, right? Or whatever other substance it might be. So that is how solution focused brief therapy kind of counters that of the 12 steps. The third question I'm going to be addressing is how does behavioral couples therapy help both the substance abusing and the non abusing partner? So, obviously, or not obviously, sorry, usually in the case of families who have substance abuse, there are multiple people who are affected by it, and especially in couples, right? If, for example, the husband is a alcoholic and the wife is with him all the time, she gets the blunt end, I guess you could say, of the stick with seeing the substance abuse and possibly being affected by that abuse, right, in negative ways, such as possible physical violence or emotional violence, all of these different things. Well, behavioral couples therapy, it's able to bring a different perspective into substance abuse. So first off, just talking about how people with substance abuse usually view themselves, it's usually around the idea of I am a alcoholic. I am a drug addict. This is just who I am. I can't change it. And behavioral's couples therapy, the part of behavioral really focuses on viewing the substance abuse as a behavior, as a type of action that the individual continues to engage in. It addresses why the individual decides to engage in this type of substance abuse, but it really is geared towards understanding that this is a behavioral thing. And so it helps the individual who's going through the substance abuse not view it necessarily as something that they can't ever change, but really maybe more through the lens of a disease model. So this is something that to put it that way, I am sick of, and that I might just need healing, right? And that can be seen through a community that is there to support you, as well as counseling and various types of intervention. So it kind of changes the perspective for the individual with the substance abuse to help them start viewing it a little bit differently. And then the part of couples therapy, right? As I mentioned earlier, this doesn't only affect the person who has the substance abuse, but if they're married, it inevitably affects their partner. And so through behavioral couples therapy, it helps the couple or the partner of the person with the substance abuse help that individual to be able to navigate through this substance abuse, to help them to be able to actually facilitate the healing and the healing process of this abuse, right? Um, and that is something that can be very empowering for the partner of the person with the substance abuse, because a lot of times this person might feel alone or feel like they're carrying all the weight. And so the counselor is able to kind of walk through them, even take into consideration the challenges that they have, but also help ensure that their partner isn't propelling behaviors or propelling things that continue to have their partner who has a substance abuse indulge in the substance abuse. So what this means is that, for example, the partner of the person with a substance abuse, they might say, oh, like, he just needs to drink for a while and he'll be fine. Like, just don't talk to your dad. This is what he does. It's normal. And so even though everyone even though everyone, sorry, might recognize in the family that this is an issue, they might not know how to deal with it due to fear, due to poor communication, due to just having a rhythm in the home of, this is just what dad does, this is just what my partner does, and he'll be fine in a few days. And it becomes the new normal of the home, even though they're operating in an unhealthy system, to say it that way. And so, yeah, it really helps when we can have both the person with the substance abuse and the partner of the person with substance abuse together in therapy to both help them create habits, create systems in place that help the individual break free, sorry, from the substance abuse. So the last question that I'm going to be addressing is, how has substance abuse impacted your family, or my family, I guess I would say, and why or why not? What coping skills have helped? So I'm fortunate enough to say that, yeah, at least in my home, I haven't experienced or I haven't had family members who struggle with substance abuse. But I started to think about why that is in regards to this question, right? Are there certain types of, styles of living that help individual not engage in this type of behavior? What is it that might take someone to possibly be able to engage in this behavior? And honestly, I believe that it depends person to person. It might be biological, but then there are definitely systems to where if it is passed down from one generation to another, this might just become something normal. So even though in my family I didn't experience substance abuse, I did view, for example, like a grandparent of mine who they did engage in substance abuse, but in my family that is something that my mother and the rest of my generation going down decided to not engage in. And so when I listened to my grandfather talk about this period of his life, what helped him personally was having a spiritual relationship. And so spiritual relationship, what I mean by this is that his relationship with God helped him to be able to create systems where he didn't allow alcohol to be in the home. He surrounded himself around people who were there to support him and who were able to talk to him and prevent him from falling back into these habits. And so, although he was able to find these things within a Christian home or within a church community, this is something that I think that even individuals outside of this form of community are able to find. So people who are there to support them, people who are there to kind of remove the accessibility to the substance abuse that they might struggle with, to ensure that this isn't something that they continue to fall into. And so this was my discussion on the questions for chapter 15. Overall, it's important to recognize that substance abuse is something that is difficult and might take years for an individual to overcome. But I do believe that with the right community, with people around there to support, it is possible to have sobriety and to be able to pull away from this. I think even behavioral couples therapy with the view of alcohol or substance abuse as a disease rather than something of who you are, and working in conjunction with your partner is something that is very helpful for individuals to be able to receive recovery. So thank you for watching, and this is my questions for chapter 15.